Speaking on 7:30, Julie Collins says all tiers of government need to cooperate on addressing
Retro Radio, 8 o'clock. Tonight I'm planning a complicated burn, so I've waited until the cold air has kicked in.
Destroyed. The E-Safety Commission is
38% humidity.
to be held to account after recording
15
its
degrees
first case
inside.
of sexually explicit artificially generated imagery
7 degrees outside.
of children for bullying. The agency wants platforms to implement vigorous age verification checks to protect children from harm. Commissioner Julie Ingram expects cases like these to increase as access to AI expands.
Kids announced former Labor staff
preparing
reimposed its harsh interpretation of Islamic law since taking power in Afghanistan 2 years ago, including the United Kingdom and US government. Must follow the deviancy.
Well, aren't the ABCs about to talk about sexual deviancy? I don't want to even start to listen to that because I'm trying to focus on other things entirely. Sort of kind of thing. If you can see what I'm on about. Okay. Standing in the doorway of the hut, light off inside, having a look through the telephoto LED head torch on the top of my cap. That's without the telephoto head torch. That's with the wide angle LED underneath the duckbill of my cap. Thus versus thus. And with the both of them, yeah, wherever I actually look, I've got a telephoto view out there into the darkness. This is a system I haven't ever seen anybody else using, but I like it. It works well for me. And if I want to go to camera, I can tilt that down and you can see me face. Kind of cunning, yeah? This is the new feature. It's rechargeable. And it sort of greatly adds to the brightness all over. Half power, shining straight up on the top port and back. Okay, so now you kind of sort of understand what the view's like. And that is camera on the chest mount, so I got both hands free. Not quite as cunning as a shithouse rat, but I'm sort of getting out there. And the reason the shithouse rat is considered to be cunning is because a shithouse rat lives out there where nobody puts any rat traps. And in the middle of the night while you're asleep, that's when they come in and they raid your pantry and they drag all of the contamination from your shithouse into your kitchen, in your pantry. Cunning as a shithouse rat. It's a probably a century and a half old expression of speech. Okay, so we kind of sort of begin this phase by preparing the wet line. And around these parts, that means carrying water to the fireground. Have no idea what's showing on the screen because it's hard up against my chest and I'm sort of kind of busy videoing. So, off we go. Last night, making the video, I did intend to finish my description of the difficulties of sailing trottle of the dump variety, but the camera battery wouldn't run for long enough, so such is life. The bit that I didn't get to say to camera last night was the bits about the federal problems that Donny's got now. Here we see the fireground, and it's very thickly invested with dried cured fuel. This edge is safetied by previous burns. Over here, I put in some work today establishing what we call in the trade a hand line. Now you should be able to see there's plenty of fuel over there where my telephoto torch beam is shining, and there's a bit of a bear track along there, and there's more fuel across there. Well, this is where the wet line is going to start, about here-ish. And then I want, basically, I want to wet down along there. Oopsie, yeah. I need to get this bucket out of my hand. As you can see, I have dragged all the burnables away from the tree. Put them out there. Right? Across there is where I want to run my wet line. Down along there where I do not want it to burn. We have in the middle a mineral earth hand line, as we call them in the trade. That side's where I want to burn, that side's what I don't want to burn. Now this is getting kind of complicated because this is bog standard Melaleuca alternifolia, aka paperbark tea tree, or lemon essence tea tree. Because if you squeeze them little leaves, you get lemon essence. This is a completely different specimen. And here we have a stand of them. And they were horribly bloody overgrown. Like, there's a huge amount of fuel here. As you can see, I have protected the tree. And I finished up in the middle of it all with a big pile of sticks and shit. I spent an hour and a half, and some of these I did not actually manage to do anything on, and they're probably going to get killed. These ones here, it's going to be a bit of an experiment. But across here, most of these I have actually been around and I have dug the leaves out. And that's where that pile came from. So, yeah, it's going to have a lot of bloody small fines and a lot of energy in it. And therefore I've waited until after 8 o'clock to even consider starting the burn. Put in a fair bit of work on this afternoon. Okay, so yeah, you can't see jack diddly shit from that, can you? This system only works when you're up within a couple of meters. But anyway, that gives you some kind of an idea. This is the previous burn, burn number 12. This will be burn number 13. Hope we don't stuff it up. However, if you count the pit burns, this is something like burn number 18. So technically I don't need a wet line here because it's already burnt. Technically I don't need a wet line here because it's already burnt. But that's going to be pretty bloody fierce. However, God, this is difficult coordinating left hand and head torch and right hand with the camera. Sort of do what I can. Anyway, what I propose to do now is place that bucket and then lay the leave the bucket in place and go back for more buckets, and then when I'm ready to lay the wet line, I'll probably lay the wet line on camera, and between then and now I'll have to get the drip torch and the leaf blower. But other than that, I'm sort of pretty well ready to go. All these trees in here have been prepared, so we shouldn't get fire running up the trees. I've even knocked off some of the old man's beard. Pretty good growth of old man's beard there. Better than the one on my face anyway. So, not a big fireground. I haven't actually paced it, but I suppose I should. It's a triangle. And from here, which is the edge of the wet line, and I am hoping to sort of black that roadway out as well. So what we're looking at is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 metres from here all the way up there by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Call it 17. Right? Yeah, 17 metres by 16 metres. Or 17 by 8. So I don't know, something around 150 square metres. A fairly small burn, but it's going to be a bit intense. It's going to be a bit intense. So I feel. And of course, this is why it's really important to lay a good wet line to stop the fire side from getting into the fuel pile that we do not want to burn. This along here has got to be the boundary between all of that and all of that. So yeah, that's the theory. And I think here I might put that bucket here halfway between the start line over there and the other bucket. Yes, it all makes sense, does it not? And you just figure out how much water you put, how close to the next lot of water. You're still not going to see that. There we go. Right. Okay. Do we need more water? Probably not, but better to be sure than to be sorry, eh? I might just put a preemptive wet line down there and along there just in case. 2 more buckets to be sure, to be sure, to be sure. Okay, so all the sticks and shit taken away from there have been basically thrown out there on the bare ground. Hopefully it'll burn, maybe it won't, I don't know, we'll find out. Now the story is, that's already been burnt. That there I do not want to burn. I thought about including this little island of dried vegetation in the burn, but I decided against it. So the wet line is to go from there down along here and up here on the right side, and by the time I get to here I will have used 10 litres, so I refill. Right, it's not a long distance. Then we keep going along here, and this is kind of diabolical because that's the hand line and that's the fuel pile, so that's got to be wet, proper fella wet, and that's why we get to here and we've got another bucket, and then we come along down to here and we refill from this bucket and we go straight back up along there, right? And the idea being that we wet that down twice. To the left of the bucket. So then we put this bucket into the watering can and we wet the black, because I kind of don't want it to escape along there if a sea breeze suddenly turns up and kicks in. And once we've wet the black, then there's a belt and braces, we put another bucket in and we come along to our starting point where I will have pre-placed the drip torch and leaf blower. So and I may decide to change the direction I start from, depending on sticking my finger in my mouth and poking it up there and where the wind's coming from. And I'm going to have a look at the Bureau of Meteorology and see where they think the wind's coming from, even though today their bloody system's got me pegged as living at Stonehenge. Now here I'm getting an easterly breeze, and it shouldn't be too bloody dangerous to light it along here in an easterly breeze. But if I'm going to have a consistent easterly breeze, I might prefer to light it along the other side and finish along here. Although last time I looked at the bomb, it said I was due to have a westerly breeze. And, you know, like, I have had the experience of them telling me I was having a 9 kilometre an hour westerly when I actually had a 6 kilometre an hour easterly. And yeah, it is a little bit important. At least it appears so to me when you got, you know, like fully cured, dried, bloody bushfire fuel halfway between your ankle and your knees. And it's got to go now, because if it doesn't go now, in 3 months' time, it's going to be absolutely bloody terrifying. Ah, shit about the bitch bum. Canut, Fcuktup, poo, as they say. There you go. It's on Stonehenge. 13 degrees, feels like 10.4. That's apparently tomorrow's expected temperature. Overnight minimum -1, 17 degrees tomorrow's top. But yeah, they think it's 13 degrees here. 14 degrees inside the hut, 8.2 degrees outside, and the temperature's going up outside. Interesting. What's the barometer doing? Pretty steady, so no great pressure for the wind to be changing. Right, so Bomb says we have east, northeast at 4 kilometres an hour, gusting to 7. Almost still, but yeah, we might want to light up on the western side. North, northeast, north, northeast, 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 northeast. Okay, so I think I will start lighting on the western side at the bottom. One is not a complete Luddite, hey. We're going to need a leaf blower. Whoopsie. Sorry, grandfather. I'm not going to need either of your half round. Actually, hammers. I couldn't tell you what they're called, but the idea is you put them on top of a rod and you bash them with a hammer, and the rod's supposed to be red hot at the time, so you can mould it. You use them with a swage block. It's a thing like that, you see. Put your hot bit of metal in there and you put that hammery looking thing on top of it, and then you beat the shit out of it with an actual sledgehammer, and you can form the hot metal into various shapes. Which is a segue too far, because it's not what we're talking about here. I'm pretty sure this thing's full. Yes, I have filled it previously with the correct fuel mix, and this thing's also full. We know that it's been done because what we have here is a shiny, 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 shiny brushed flame holder on the drip torch, and that means that somebody has already brushed it before they refilled it. It's not quite totally full. Got something weird going on with my right knee. Might be oldness of the age syndrome, perhaps. Might also be the fact that 5 times I've broken up 2 tons of sticks. If you break up a couple of tons of sticks, that's an awful lot of stress on your patella tendon insertion on the tibia. Lifting your leg up and breaking the bloody sticks across your knee. So anyway, the wind's supposed to be coming from the other side. Therefore, I don't want to light from the other side, or I'll have a bloody rage and howling gale coming out here trying to escape. So, the idea is going to be to light up from down here. Golly gosh, gee darn shit, oh bugger. But anyway, that's what's going to have to happen. Light up from down here. With a northeasterly wind coming from there. And a wet line up there. So anyway, oops, such is the theory. Golly gosh. Yeah, okay, so now it's 9:06 PM. South-southeast at 6 kilometres per hour. 9 kilometres an hour gusting. And in front of us we got 6 kilometres an hour all night, all coming from the north-northeast. right now they say it's coming from the southeast. Anyway, I think it's probably kind of safe to light up. Laying the wet line. Don't know how much you're going to get to see of it, but I might as well leave the camera running while I'm doing this. And it's a specially drilled out and enlarged rose on the watering can. So depending on the angle of the dangle and how hard you swing it, you've got a fair bit of control over the flow rate and the coverage, which is kind of sort of handy. That's the actually kind of important wet line. These ones along here don't matter quite as much. But I'm going to put them in anyway, because I don't think they'll hurt. And you know, belt and braces, better safe than sorry. Ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure. And how many more cliches do you want to trot out? Gives us one more bucket. I have to keep remembering to tilt my head down, point the telephoto LED head torch That'll do a bit of good. See, a little bit of water, a lot of water. The hairiest, scariest bits of this. With the last of the spare water. Oops. Lots of mine. Hopefully it'll go. There we go, it works, Kimosabi. And how does the new nozzle work? Yes, I think we have increased velocity and we have wider spread. Yeah, very interesting. I could see what I was doing, I don't know whether you could. Anyway, that's working. Top pocket for the firefighting cigarette lighter. There you go, that one open. Wire's going almost straight up. That's always a good sign. The idea is to burn cool. I certainly seem to be doing that. At the moment anyway. Let's hope it stays that way. Oh, that's a bit that I obviously bloody missed. Post-facto tree-based preparation. Not much time for talking, I'm afraid. This is too much potential to bugger up. Certainly notice the extra squirt. These are largely the ones I've gardened under and around. It is a bit dramatic, isn't it? It certainly puts out the near edge. There you should be able to see my defence of the tree doing its stuff. Just like the wet line does. And those are the, well, they're not tea trees, they're some other kind of a heath plant. That's the one that I didn't prepare the ground around. I don't know whether it'll survive, but I just didn't have the time. But certainly the west side of the burn, where I did less preparation, is burning a whole lot fiercer. Can you imagine how much shit I would be in if I was too scared to do this? Now, when it's possible to do it with a reasonably foreseeable amount of safety, if I was to wait until the middle of bloody fire season and then just hope that this wasn't going to be a problem, that would be a really good way to get myself cooked trying to fight a really high energy firestorm. And I don't want to do that. So, therefore, thus and because, tonight is burn number 18. And kerosene's $3 a litre. But it gives me kind of certainty with the light up. And this is where the bloody thing's supposed to stop on command. And this is where Chrissy gets very bloody embarrassed if it fails to stop. Like a good little fire, it stopped where I asked it to. How very well mannered of it. Notice it's stopping 2 metres inside the wet line that I put on the blackened pre-burned edge. Welcome to belt and braces philosophy. When you worry about shit that doesn't go wrong, what that means is you were right to not let it go wrong. Well, that's going well. I was really worried that that might have put up a whole lot of sparks and embers. So far, not so. And yeah, down here, these prepared bushes, they did a lot better than the ones that had lots and lots of dry leaves and dry grass and dead sticks around them. How very surprising. So that's apparently what you've got to do, is get out there before you light up and physically dry firefight a hand line around every plant that you do not want to be burned. Yeah, and then you can watch something like that going on and you don't have to worry too much, because you've got your wet line and you got your hand line and you got your trusty rusty leaf blower that these days is reliable. And with a drip torch, it's pretty easy to light the fire up. And yeah, I might use 2 or 3 litres on a burn like this. But it means that you're not going to get all that ground fuel waiting for an ember attack to then run straight up the bark of the unprepared trees to light up a canopy fire that'll ignite half the bloody forest. Like, you know, a little bit of fossil carbon put through the leaf blower and put through the drip torch can prevent a huge carbon sink from being bloody well burnt and pumped into the sky. At least that's my current rationalisation. Once upon a time, the people who lived here before my ancestors showed up, they knew how to live on this country and burn it barefoot with no drip torch and no leaf blower. And they kept it in a condition where it would burn. And one of the things that's occurred to me on several levels, I've known that people didn't move their camp to another location simply because they'd hunted all the game, and not simply because they dug up all the wild native food plants. One of the other reasons is all the dead, dry sticks on the ground had been used up for firewood. And if you envisage somebody living on a patch of country, collecting all the windfall, dry, dead sticks, and then if you got a bad, neglected area like this, collect your dead sticks and put them in a pile in the centre of it, prepare the ground around all the trees and plants that you want to preserve and maintain, and then light it up and go away. And by the time you come back, there'll be fresh, sweet green grass, and all the animals you want to hunt will be there grazing it. And instead of worrying about fence lines like I have to, and all my neighbours have to, your priority would be to maintain your country with really, really good pasture and keep your water nice and clean with no silt in the rivers and the water holes. Because if the animals think that your place is a horrible place to try grazing, they'll go somewhere else, and somebody else will be able to harvest as many of them as they can before the animals decide not to live there. And you might not be able to play mine fantasies and see how much you can harvest and how fast you can harvest it, but you can live on the land without being afraid that it's going to burn you. Trouble with this bloody wind advantage is all you need is an obstacle for the wind to bounce off, and you can wind up blowing sparks back at yourself. I find that quite often. You're often better off just going and stamping it out. Yes, quite a well-mannered little fire, isn't it? You're always supposed to work your drip torch forward so that if you fall over you don't drag it on yourself, but it seems to work a bit better when you draw it backwards. It's probably why so many people do it that way. As I said, a complicated little burn. Almost went too far. Imagine, winter time, and you have to do your bloody hazard reduction burning at 10 o'clock at night so you don't lose control of the burn the day after it rained. It rained here yesterday, 3.4 millimetres for breakfast kind of thing. Can you believe that? 3.4 millimetres yesterday for breakfast. And this is how the ground behaves at 10 o'clock at night. Whatever happens that goes wrong in the lives of people who voted to go ahead with anthropogenic global warming, it's difficult for me to believe that it's going to be sufficient penitentiary servitude for them. Like they've decided for their own personal bloody convenience to see how rich they could become for the fun of it. For the fun of it. Their idea of productivity is to sort of take the teats of planet Earth and squeeze them harder to see if you can get more milk to come out of Mother Earth. And yes, the technology is marvellous and it's wonderful and it's shining. But did we have to trash planet Earth so we could have bright shiny landfill, cheap on discount from Walmart? Was that really necessary? You know, like in World War II when refined transport fuel was getting scarce, they used to have posters up that said, "Is this journey really necessary?" It was a variation on the careless talk costs lives, loose lips sink ships kind of thing. Right at the moment, the whole bloody world seems to be going bananas over a bunch of women playing soccer. Football they call it these days, but you know. And this is all for the glorification of the International, or Federation of International Football Association or something, FIFA. And they're literally flying these teams all over the bloody world so they can play one game of football and then fly on to another country or another city in that country. It's the most ridiculous waste of carbon emissions that I can imagine, apart from the fact that half of China must have been working for 3 or 4 months straight, making cheap, useless merchandise, they call it, marketing jism. Shit that's manufactured to be sold at an enormous markup to people who think that it's an absolute must-have, got to have this thing item. And then 6 months down the track, there's a brand new got to have absolutely vital item, and they'll get rid of this thing because it's taken up space in the cupboard. And at the moment, the big flavour is for everybody to get around wearing a Matilda's soccer jumper. And pretend like they've had a lifelong interest in soccer. Or ladies football, or whatever you want to call it. And, you know, like just sort of easy, ready reference. The sea ice in Antarctica has shrunk faster and more suddenly and to a greater degree this year than ever before in the history of paying attention to the sea ice. Greenland's bloody ice sheet, which is, or ice cap rather, which is porous and looking like Swiss cheese at the best of times. It's had its second summer of warm, hot hurricane rainfall onto it. It's bordering on incomprehensible to me that so many people are wasting so much time and energy and money worrying about who can kick a round ball through a set of posts without using their hands. I just don't see why anybody thinks that's an important thing in the grand scheme of things. I mean, team sport is basic military tactics, you know, a leader and a deputy leader and a bunch of cannon fodder, and you defend the territorial enclave of your own tribal group against a ritual attack of the young warriors from the neighbouring tribe. And then they defend their territorial enclave against your ritual attack. And as well as attack and defence by the numbers, which is your basic military manoeuvre for small infantry units. You've also got the psychosexual reinforcement of taking your sperm packet and kicking it through the legs in the neighbouring territories' territorial enclave. So effectively you go out there playing football, rugby, lacrosse, basketball, all those ball games where you got a goal area that you defend against ritual attack from the young males of the neighbouring tribe or the young women of the neighbouring tribe. It's just stylised military combat, you know. You get your little 6-year-olds playing soccer or rugby, and you keep them playing that until they're about 13 to 16, and then you give them a Kalashnikov and you send them over the hills to rape all the women in Bosnia and kill all the fucking men. And if your side wins, they're heroes, and if your side loses, they're all bloody war criminals. But you're not supposed to say that because, oh, it's not cricket, old boy. There's an entire school of thought that suggests that the reason the Great British Empire became the Great British Empire was not so much that they sent the sons of their wealthier classes to boarding school to be brutalised in the ways of the world and to want to be forever proving themselves by dominating others, having been bullied in boarding school. There's a story that one of the reasons the British did so well conquering all sorts of other nations is because cricket is a perfect preparation for a military campaign. There's endless hours of mindless bloody tedium where nothing interesting is happening, but you're supposed to pay attention to it really closely, and all of a sudden when you're out there in the middle of the bloody cricket pitch, fielding as they call it, out of friggin' nowhere, just when you were looking at a magpie flying across the sky, a little cork ball sewn into a leather jacket weighing half a kilogram or something comes sailing out of the sky at 160 or so kilometres an hour, and if you're not looking exactly right, it'll hit you in the head and knock you bloody halfway into the middle of next week. If you're lucky, people have died from it, having them thrown at them and hit at them with cricket bats. And what you're supposed to do is spot this bloody thing coming at you, and then go out there barehanded and try and intercept it by eye and catch it in your hand and decelerate it from its 150 or so kilometres an hour ballistic trajectory within the space of one swing of your arm without breaking your fingers. So you get momentary periods of absolute terror turning up at random, when you were otherwise kind of busy being bored shitless. And that turns out to be perfect practice for being in the military. So I'm told by people who've done it. They describe it as a philosophy of hurry up and wait. I think at 10 o'clock at night this fireground is now too cold to be able to even try and light up anymore. I would like to be able to burn these leaves around here, but I don't think it's going to happen. However, burn number 18, it went in and it happened. And it didn't bloody go wrong. I didn't quite get all of it burned. I had a good go at this, but it just didn't want to burn. So 16 metres by 17 metres or something. Might have been 17 by 19. Not quite 200 square metres. But at the wrong time of day, or with too much wind, that could have been an absolute pain in the arse. You know, to be trying to defend a tent and have a fire coming at you from the east with this on your perimeter. Yeah, I'm going to keep on burning until they stop issuing permits or they cancel the one that I've got. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I bloody killed all those little plants. And that's the thing, in the burn, after you've denuded the place of firewood, after you've hunted the animals and made them all sort of shy of people, and after you've picked up all of the most harvestable wild native food plants, then you burn it, and that gets rid of all of the dried grass, and it kills a lot of the undergrowth, which then the animals knock over when they're grazing for the green pick that'll come up underneath the dead scrub. And next time when you show up, there'll be lush green grass and there'll be dead sticks lying on the ground, and you can pick up all the dead sticks for your campfire. So collecting firewood, burning the country and maintaining the country and finding a reliable supply of food, it was all part of a lifestyle. And the idea was to be able to make everything you needed with muscle power and ingenuity and the materials you had to hand. The country that you were living on, what the country was good for. You know, I've lived here for 33 years and I finally figured out in the last 5 years or so, irrefutably, that this place used to be a didgeridoo factory, and I'm pretty sure they made Coolamans and Kylies as well, and probably Nullas. 30 years living on a place before you figure out what it's good for. And you know what? Captain Cook and Arthur Phillip didn't bloody do that. They refused to put in the time. But anyway, I reckon that went sort of kind of well, even if I do say so myself. And tonight I didn't burn the leaf blower. I didn't melt its bloody air intake on the cooling fan for the engine. And that would have to be an improvement, because last time I did. I remodeled it to the tune of shit, oh dear, look at that. That's what happens when you don't know what you don't know, when you don't realise that a leaf blower's cooling fan is capable of sucking air in across the fireground, over a black zone, over a wet zone, over a swept clear bit of country, and feed fire to your leaf blower. Who knew? Muggins here certainly didn't. But anyway, this went well. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao. The complicated burn went well.